Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, we are continuing our look at some science fiction games, and today we are going to look at Relic. This is a game from Fantasy Flight Games, and this is when they had the partnership with Games Workshop, so they were producing Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000 themed games. And this is Fantasy Flight's take on Talisman. And this is basically Talisman set in space, Talisman set in the Warhammer 40K universe. But I also think that it is much more than just a simple retheming of Talisman. And this is a game that I really do enjoy. So let's take a little closer look at the back of the box here and read about Relic. Enter the grim future of the 41st millennium. The Imperium of Man stretches across the known galaxy, encompassing millions of worlds, yet it stands at the brink of annihilation. From without and within, malignant forces of chaos are intent on corrupting mankind, while unending incursions of deadly alien races tear at its fragile boundaries. Bravely standing against eternal night are the beleaguered forces and noble orders of the Imperium, guided by the undying will of a deathless emperor. The distant Antian sector has known its share of horrors and strife, but even darker times lie ahead. A warp rift has erupted nearby, and under its baleful influence, chaos, infestations, and other abhorrent phenomena have surfaced throughout the sector. To face this threat, agents of the Imperium have come forth: Space Marine, Inquisitor, Commissar, Rogue Trader, and more. To succeed, such heroes will need skill and weaponry, courage and faith, and even the assistance of ancient and powerful relics. So the relics are basically like the talisman in this game, and you are trying to gain a relic before you can win the game. In Relic, 2 to 4 players each assume the role of a powerful individual from the Warhammer 40,000 universe and bravely venture forth to shield the Antian sector from certain doom. By completing missions and claiming victory over enemies, characters gain rewards and experience, furthering their chance at defeating whatever evil lies beyond the warp rift. Will you save humanity or fall to the powers of chaos? So I have the base game set up here. I also have one of the expansions, and that is the Halls of Terra expansion. I don't have this board set up because it doesn't fit on my table. Relic has a very large board. It is very colorful, and it is just an absolute joy to behold. I love this board. It is so wild with different colors and pictures. I love just looking at this board. Throughout this video, I'm going to show some close-up pictures of the art and just kind of let people enjoy the art of this game because so much of the art is so good. I love this era of Fantasy Flight games. So when you play a game of Relic, you are going to pick a scenario. And with the base game and the expansion, there's one other expansion called Nemesis, but I don't have that expansion. It is super expensive, and I doubt I will ever own it. But the scenario that I am playing right now is the Kairos Fate Weaver. Of course, this is the Chaos God Tzeentch. So the scenarios in Relic are pretty simple. They basically just dictate the end, the win condition, like some of the various win condition scenarios in Talisman do. So each scenario will have a different way to have a final confrontation with whoever the end boss is, and you will have some different things to keep track of while you are playing the game, depending on the complexity of the scenario. But none of them are super complex. We have things like Corruptus here, or the Black Crusade, the Lost Flagship of Saint Antias, the Chaos Manufactorum, the Mystery Beyond. This is kind of like one of the basic things. This actually doesn't have any kind of special rules at the end of the game. Just whoever gets to the center space first wins the game. We have the Lure of Chaos, the Last Reliquary. And this is one of the cards that came in the expansion for the Nemesis expansion, which I don't have, so I never use that particular card there. At the beginning of the game, you will also choose a hero to play, And we have things like the Commissar. We have Ogren here, the Imperial Guard. We have a Rattling Sniper, a Sister Hospitaller. We have an Imperial Fists Terminator, a Rogue Trader there. We have Ordo Malus, the Inquisitor, a Sanctioned Psyker. We have a Canoness, a Tech Priest Engineer. Very cool. I love the Tech Priest there. And an Ultramarine Captain. So I am playing the game as the Calidus Assassin. And this assassin is a pretty cool character. When she rolls a 6, she actually gets an extra bonus to her exploding dice. This game uses an exploding dice system. Whenever you roll a 6, you get to continue rolling. And if you get more than 1 6, you can explode more. So when she has an exploding die, I get to roll 2 additional dice. So I have more chances of getting more 6s and more exploding dice. At the bottom of each character sheet, you will have their limit of assets. That's pretty much how much gear, how many things they can have equipped, including allies. You have a starting space, and then you have a number of stats here. You have strength, willpower, cunning, and life. And those are actually, you actually chart those using these dials. So it's kind of cool. This has a little overlay. And then the system also has a level up system. And as you destroy enemies, you will gain a number of points of trophies. Just like in Talisman, you can spend 6 points worth of trophies to level up your character. And the leveling up system is a little more in depth than it is in Talisman. And we will talk about that when we get to that part of this video. So right now, my character, I am up here. I am getting ready to face off against a couple Gene Stealers in battle there as I am working my way around trying to solve missions, trying to get my relic. To obtain a relic, you need to complete 3 missions. Once you get a relic, then you can come over here to this Guardian of the Rift. And if you have a relic, the Guardian of the Rift lets you into the inner section of the board. And then you have to work your way into the middle section here. And once you get to the middle section, then you have to face off against whatever scenario you have chosen. And that is how you win the game. I am playing against a dummy player. So I am playing a solo game. I am playing, as I said, as the Calidus Assassin. And I am playing against the House Belisarius Navigator from the Imperial Nobility. So this is the character I'm playing against. And there are rules for playing against a dummy player, and these are available in the files section on Board Game Geek for Relic for the base game. And the dummy player basically just kind of acts as a timer. You have a certain number of turns in which the dummy player is going to move around the outer section of the map. And then as soon as those turns end, then it will move into the middle section. And then it'll move around the middle section for a certain number of turns, and then it will move in towards the center section. And if it completes the center section before you do, the dummy player wins. The dummy player also has very easy, kind of simplified rules with how it engages with the spaces on the board, with how it engages with combat. So it's very simple. It's like playing a simple second hand, but it does add a little bit of pressure. And the dummy player also does help populate the spaces with various cards so things cycle in and out, making the board more engaging, making it more dynamic. If you are playing solo, I do recommend using this dummy player. It's a very, very handy, and I think it does a good job of creating a very simple solo house rule for Relic. Additionally, because the board is so big and it is kind of hard to see these spaces, a lot of the spaces will be upside down, especially if you're playing in a kind of a confined area where you can't really walk around and read things upside down. There's also this very handy chart here that you can also download from Board Game Geek, and that has a listing of all of the spaces on the board, what kind of threats you will encounter when you land on those spaces. And then it also has a detailed write-up of the special spaces, so you can just read this to determine what you need to do when you are on one of those hard to read spaces. Again, a very, very handy chart to have. So a basic game of Relic will have you moving around the board like in Talisman. You are rolling to move. You are moving from one space to the next. And as you land on spaces, you will have various encounters. And there are a lot of encounters in this game. There are red encounters, blue encounters, and yellow encounters. So we have a yellow encounter deck. We have a red encounter deck. And we have a blue encounter deck. The red encounter decks are basically, you will have a better chance of having strength encounters, and you will have a better chance of encountering orcs as enemies. And that represents strength there. The blue, it represents willpower. And the blue, you will have a better chance of coming across Eldar, I believe, or is it Tyranids? It's Tyranids. So the blue, you will have a better chance of coming against, facing off against the Tyranid race, and you will have a better chance of encountering things that need willpower to overcome. And then finally, we have yellow, and yellow is represented by cunning. And when you face off against a yellow encounter, you will have a better chance of coming across an Eldar. And there are a ton of different encounters in this game, especially when you add in the expansion. It adds all kinds of things. Here we have you have a Death Skull Squigs for your orcs, Goth Battle Wagon, Mutant Warriors, Death Guard, a Death Watch Space Marine, the War Biker, a Wasteland. So there are different kinds of encounters such as enemies. There are good things that you can encounter. For instance, you might find an encounter here with a stranger, and this is the Sister Hospitaller. And she will heal you. She will have a number of different charges that you can use for when you land on her space. You can spend a charge in order to heal one of your characters. You might come across the Imperial Court that also has some charges. And when you land on this, you can spend a charge in order to gain some cunning, in order to level up your cunning. But then the blue here with the willpower, again, you will have a better chance of facing off against Tyranids. So you might find some Plague Bearer, or maybe a Sky Slasher, the Horrors of Tzeentch there, Trigon, the Tyrant Guard, the Epidemius, the Hive Crone, a Ripper Swarm, or a Warp Storm. And then the yellow with Cunning, of course, you will have more of a chance to come across Eldar, or maybe you'll have an enemy, a heretic or a traitor. There's an Eldar there, the Avatar of Cain, the Vindicare Assassin, the Howling Banshee. Also in these decks of encounter cards, you also might come across some assets, and these are weapons. There are other chances to get assets as well, and those assets are represented by this deck here. And you can buy those when you have a chance to draw some assets from the deck. Then you have a chance to buy them for the value listed above. And the assets will either add to your skill for skill checks or to your battle roll for when you are fighting. Combat is pretty simple in this game. If you were to face off against the Vile Demonette here, so this is a demon, then the demon will have a cunning value of 3. Right now, I have a cunning value of 9. And so the hero rolls a d6, the enemy rolls a d6. You add any bonuses to those rolls. Whoever gets the highest total wins. If the total is tied, then nobody wins, and that your engagement with that enemy is over. So like Talisman, it is a very simple game, and that is one of my favorite things about it. It is very easy to get in, to start playing, and just to start having a really good time and a great adventure. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what makes this game different from Talisman. I wanted to talk about why Relic isn't just Talisman in space. It's not just Talisman with different art. And the first thing that sets us apart is this deck here of power cards. So power cards are a thing that you can get while you are playing, and there are 2 uses for power cards. Each of the power cards will have a number at the top, and that number, you can spend your power card to use that number instead of a dice, instead of rolling a dice. And the numbers range from, I believe, 1 to 6. If you draw a power card with a 6, then that's just Iron Discipline. This card can only be played for its power number. So this gives you a guaranteed 6 in order to use for a guaranteed 6 of movement, or a guaranteed 6 in in a battle. And if you spend that 6, that also counts as an exploding die. So you will also get to roll another d6 in addition to that 6 if you use that in battle. That is very cool. It is kind of like using a deck of cards, as I've talked about as a house rule in Talisman, using a deck of cards with numbers 1 through 6 and the jokers as wild. And you have a hand of cards that you can spend for in lieu of rolling dice. But the other numbers will all have special abilities, kind of like skills that you can use. So you can use this rapid recovery. You can use it as a roll of a 3, or you can play at the end of your experience phase, which is at the end of your turn, to reset your life to your starting value. So that can help you heal. You might have a test of honor. You can spend that as a 4, or when the active player enters or attempts to leave your space during his movement phase. The active player must immediately end his movement phase and give you one of his ally assets. So this game does encourage a little bit more player interaction. And so some of these don't exactly work really well for when you are playing solo, but they still add a good choice to make that is not in Talisman because of that choice of using that as a 4 or for the power. So there are a bunch of various powers with different totals there. And I really do like this system. I would love to see this implemented in a version of Talisman. I don't know, maybe 4th edition of Talisman has something like this. Another difference from Talisman is the mission deck. So at the beginning of the game, each player will draw 1 mission. And this mission gives you a goal that you need to accomplish on the board. Sometimes that goal is going out and destroying certain kinds of enemies, maybe Tyranids or Eldar. Sometimes it's engaging in battle with other players. Sometimes it's collecting a certain number of things. There are a bunch of different missions, and each mission will have a certain reward. But you need to complete 3 missions in order to gain a relic. And like I said earlier, the relics are kind of like the talismans, but we'll talk a little bit about the relics in just a minute. But I really do enjoy this mission system. So for instance, right now I am working on my 3rd mission, and that is to stop the Wah. The orc forces are gathering faster than anticipated. We must smite these foul Xenos before they unleash their full strength. Objective: win a battle against an orc enemy. So right now I am trying to get to a space that has red encounters, so I have a better chance of encountering an orc and then beating that orc in battle. If I do, I gain a cunning, and I would solve this quest, giving me my 3 missions. The other missions I had was to kill a Tyranid and to eliminate the enemy. So lots of combat missions. Of course, this is for Warhammer. This is 40K. So the main verb is attack, right? But once I solve all 3 missions, then I get to draw a relic. And the relics are another thing that make this game different than Talisman, because they are not just talismans. In Talisman, a talisman had no mechanical benefit. It wasn't a thing that gave you any kind of power. You just had to have it to reach the center of the board. However, the relics in Relic all have different kinds of abilities. And so as you gain relics, you will actually become stronger. And these are actually really powerful items and different kinds of spells and artifacts and things that will make your character stronger, such as perhaps maybe the STC fragment. Your starting life value is increased by 4. That gives you a +4 to your life. That's super powerful. Or maybe we have the Vessel of Saint Basilius, and that has 3 charges, so you can use this 3 times, and you may spend a charge from this card to reset your life to its starting value and discard all of your face-down corruption cards. We'll talk about corruption cards in just a minute, because that's another thing that makes this game different than Talisman. So all kinds of different relics with different abilities and different special powers. Very, very cool deck there. Now, speaking of corruption cards are another thing that make this game different than Talisman. As you are exploring the world, as you are becoming corrupted by the warp, you have a chance to draw these corruption cards. And depending on how many you have a better chance of being corrupted. So when you draw a corruption card, you look at the number at the top right. And if you have that many corruption cards, including the one you've just drawn, then you turn that face up and you have to pay the consequence. However, these aren't all bad. These are basically mutations. Some can be good, some can be bad. And one of the ways you can lose, one of the ways you can die in this game is if you ever have 6 corruption cards, your character is completely corrupted and they are out of the game. So this game does have some player elimination. But you can get things such as becoming a hunchback, have a hemorrhaging cyst, a slave to darkness, multiple arms, an atrophied soul, maybe a weakened body, presence, the rot, dimensional instability, cowardice, invisibility, crisis of faith, waning strength, acid excretion. So all kinds of really cool ways to get corrupted and to get mutated and to have your character change throughout the course of the game. And finally, the thing that makes this game quite a bit different than Talisman is the leveling up system. So as you kill enemies and as you gain trophies, you can spend 6 points worth of trophies to level up. And when you level up, you move this peg from left to right, and you do what it says on the matching column on your character card. So my Calidus Assassin, every time she levels up, she alternates by gaining either a cunning or a strength. Cunning, strength, cunning, strength. However, she also gets to draw a new power card. And the power card, her limit will go up to 4, which she can have 4 power cards. At the beginning of the game, she can have 2 power cards. If you are already at your limit and you're told to draw another one, you can draw one and then choose which power card to discard. So again, it's another choice. I think what this game does better than Talisman and the Talisman base game is give the players more choices to make in how they are interacting with the game. And in that way, this is kind of advanced Talisman. However, it doesn't add a ton of rules that get in the way of having that kind of simplistic adventure and fun of Talisman. And that is why I really do enjoy Relic. Now, the expansion here for the Halls of Terra, it actually adds a board like the Talisman expansions do. And this goes onto the end of the board. And so this is a whole nother area that you can explore. Let me open. This board is really weird. It's an odd shape. It is kind of hard to open there. But yeah, so this will be added to the end of the board. And this is a whole new area that you can explore with new kinds of encounters to have, new adventures to have. And this board here actually has its own deck of encounter cards. And these are orange encounter cards. And so you might come across things like a Penal World Fugitives or the Oath of Moment, a Regimental Deserters, Honored Chapter Serf, Against the Odds, Pilgrim Riot, Honored Duel, a Traitorous Adept. And this board here adds these faction tokens. And as you do different things on the board, you will gain different affiliations with the different factions, and then depending on which faction you have a token for, that might trigger other things on this board or other things on these cards. I very, very rarely play with this board and this deck just because it doesn't really fit on my table, and I find that the base game is good enough. But for my games of Relic, I don't play with a lot of house rules. I think the game is pretty good as it is. I know I use a lot of house rules in Talisman, but I think that this game adds enough choices to it. I don't really feel like it needs a lot of house rules. I do play with that dummy player when I am playing solo because I think that's a really good solo mode to play. And the one house rule I do use is the close enough rule. And that close enough rule is the way you move into the center board in Relic is on the corner spaces. And so I play as a close enough rule to where if I land on an adjacent space to the corner, I can just go ahead and move into that corner as part of that movement in order to give me a better chance of manipulating the movement and moving in to the middle realm here. And then once you get into the middle realm, you need to have a relic and you land on this Guardian of the Rift with your relic, and then you can move into the center realm. And then once you are in the center realm, you move one space at a time until you get into the center, at which point I will have to face off against Kairos Fate Weaver here and challenge him into and possibly win the game or possibly lose. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoy taking this look at Relic. It's a game that I don't think it's talked about very often. It's the only Talisman variant that I own and have. So I haven't played the Batman version, and I could see that being pretty fun. And I know there is also the what is it, Kingdom Hearts, and I'm not into Kingdom Hearts at all. Like I really, I really dislike the Kingdom Heart video games. For me, they're just a little annoying. So I'm not too interested in checking that out. I might want to check out Batman. I don't know if it also offers up things that really do make it feel like a different game. I'm not trying to say that Relic is a completely different game. 60% of it is Talisman, but it's that 40% that is different that I think makes it stand out. And I'm happy to have this as part of my collection, even though I also already own Talisman. The games give me different feels. I like the different themes. I love the board, and I like all the different decks of cards that make this feel like a different version of Talisman. It's not just Talisman with different art and a different setting. So, all right, you guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.